Hello everyone, Eric the Racket Scientist here, and I know it's been a long time since our last video, and that's because the last video I just published right before I went on some travels. I was out of town for 3 weeks, and then anime convention this week, so I'm really busy. I do have the footage for the next episode of my podcast, Shuttle Couch, with my good friend Maury, but I was supposed to edit that while I was traveling, but I got kind of lazy, so I didn't do that. But rest assured, I'll be working on that as well. In the meantime, I thought I'd give you guys another racket video. So when I was traveling, I went to the Bay Area, which is kind of where I grew up, and while I was there, I picked something up, which I will show you right now, and that's what we're going to do, is this guy. And this is a Mizuno Acrospeed 1 Accel. So hopefully you can see that. And this is one of 3 variants of the Mizuno Acrospeed 1. I have not featured it on this channel yet, but if you follow my other stuff, like my Instagram, you may know that I have this Mizuno Acrospeed 1 Focus, and this was the first Acrospeed that I got. This one is slightly more head heavy than the Accel, and as you can see, strings are broken. And I like this one a lot. And on the other hand, another surprise is that I also have this Mizuno Acrospeed 1 Drive, which is the newest racket in this this trio. These 3 rackets form a trio, Acrospeed 1 trio. So there's the Drive, Accel, and the Focus. They all belong to the same kind of series, and it's supposed to be kind of a scale from like headlight, slight head heavy, although I haven't had a chance to play with them all side by side. And both of these two that are not the Focus I picked up from friends. Actually, where did I get the Focus? I actually don't remember. But the Drive I got first, actually. A friend of mine was selling it at my local club, Seattle Badminton Club. Picked it up off him. This Acrospeed 1 Accel I got from San Jose, California. Saw a Facebook marketplace ad for this guy selling 2 of them for a really good price, and I convinced 2 of my friends in the Bay Area to each pick them up. So they both went to my friends, and one of them decided he didn't like it that much and sold it to me. So, and of course, I also have the Mizuno Acrospeed 0, which is kind of, I guess, the flagship of the Acrospeed series, and this is supposed to be more head heavy than all of these 3, a little stiffer as well. Even though they actually all say flex medium, I don't really believe that. They play a little more like a stiff racket, and the effective stiffness feels different. The head heaviness is, in terms of like what it says on the graph, it's about the same for the Drive and 0. So in terms of what the differences between these rackets are, I think we'll have to go into that later. And so this is basically almost every single racket in the Acrospeed series, and I think I'm only missing one. I did research, and okay, when I say missing, I mean from the high-end series. I know that there's Acrospeed like 3 or something, maybe, but so I'm just gonna go ahead and get started while I talk. But I actually looked it up after I got this Accel to see if there were any other rackets, and apparently there's this racket called the Mizuno Acrospeed, I think it was 001, and now that's very confusing because there's a Acrospeed 0, there's an Acrospeed 1, or there's 3 Acrospeed 1s, and then there's a 001, so it's like, why do you have to use the same digits? You know, why couldn't you just call it, you know, Acrospeed 2, even Acrospeed 0.5, like anything would have been better than that. Now we're just all very confused about what that is, and you know, the marketing material for Mizuno is also kind of not super useful for determining what the deal is there, so we also don't really know. Now you'll notice that this grip job is pretty clean. There's a very little, what's the word? Like this tape job is very detailed and done very well. So it's kind of a shame to undo it, but I'm gonna undo it because it's not, you know, with I'm very neurotic when it comes to my racket, so it's not exactly my setup, right? And that's why it's on this video. And another reason is because the guy who I bought this off of, and shout out, you know who you are, is a big fan of my content, and he religiously watches these videos and knows exactly what my routine is for gripping my rackets, and so he's taken a lot of cues from me, and so that's why the tape job is essentially how I would do it, barring a few details. And so it's, in general, it's very nice to see racket taken such good care of, right? It's very refreshing, and we've seen some pretty banged up rackets come through here. Shout outs to the Z-Force. Wait, no, sorry, Z-Strike that has come through this channel. The last one that I did, the last Yonex racket that I did, maybe. And that one was in not very good condition, which was very unfortunate because, you know, it's a beautiful racket, but at the same time, it's like, you know, if it's not in good condition, then it makes it a little easier to justify me playing with it rather than keeping it in good condition. So, you know, take that how you will. So, I also apologize if I'm going off screen a little bit. So, yeah, I got a new phone, so that's something to celebrate. Previously, I was filming on a camcorder, and it's a nice camera, and I'm still going to use it. Go ahead and show you. Well, it's got some accessories on it, but this is just my camcorder that I was using. It's like a Sony camcorder. I added some accessories to it, but at its core, it's still just a, you know, kind of like a dad cam. Well, that's what I was using before. And I basically had to put it on this this camera arm that I have up on my counter, film, and you know, I have to hook it up to my microphone and the power cord and everything, and it's kind of heavy and whatever. I had, up until very recently, an iPhone X, which is a pretty old model. I've had it for either 7 or 8 years. It served me very well, but you know, because of the threat of tariffs, I was encouraged to switch, so I finally, yeah, I was planning on upgrading eventually, but it's kind of hard to justify when, you know, you have a device that's working not perfectly fine, but relatively fine, right? It's like I just, you know, I use it for texting, browsing social media, and it's like you don't really need like a powerful phone to do all that. It's, you know, it's good enough for most of that. I don't even watch like videos that often on my phone. I like try to do that on I'm the type of person who like really prefers to use my laptop or my desktop if I'm going to do that. And so I wasn't even really using it to watch videos or anything. And so I was like, you know, I don't really need to, but at the same time, it's like the planned obsolescence, right? And I could tell that like with each operating system that I kind of upgraded, my phone was getting slower, and also just using it for normal stuff for everyday tasks, like for example, Apple CarPlay, right? It's like you want to use your phone in the car. And my iPhone 10, when doing wireless CarPlay, like gets super hot, even borderline overheat, and it would like lag and stuff because it just couldn't keep up with the demands required. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll just finally get that new phone. And I think what really sold me is that the new phone, iPhone 16 Pro, so I thought about, you know, whether I wanted the basic one or what not, but the iPhone 16 Pro can do a lot of cool stuff actually, in terms of like video filming. So in addition to 4K 120 FPS, which is an absolutely ridiculous resolution, by the way, and that's not what I'm filming this at, because 4K 120 FPS, it's like it'll actually fill up the whole phone storage in like 11 minutes, I think. So that's not very productive. But this thing has a feature that can record directly to an external SSD, and that is awesome. So yeah, you know, again, I'm still going to use my other cameras, but for like lightweight stuff like this, where it's, you know, I'm really just like filming myself and recording myself talking. It's not that big of a deal. So the iPhone works perfectly sufficiently for situations like this. Okay, oh, I see. Okay. So I'm filming this on my iPhone right now. I don't have my external SSD, but I mean I'm not filming it at like a high resolution, so I didn't think I really needed it yet. But I did hook up my same microphone, so I should sound the same. And yeah, that just makes life a lot easier. That also means that I now have access to 3 cameras, including my phone, which means that when I do like vlogs or interviews or reviews, I can now do like multiple angles, like, you know, the whole podcast angles. It's like one wide angle and then one camera on each person. So that's cool and all. Anyways, enough about that. Yeah, so if you watch my last video on the last Mizuno racket that I did, which is the IJ2, then you'll know that all of these top Mizuno rackets come in G6 grip size, and that this is no different. This is also a G6 grip size. And so basically we are doing a full overlap, which means that I need to find my good scissors again. This gets the job done. But we're doing a full overlap, as you can see. A couple bubbles, but you know, that's not really going to affect it too badly. So full overlap, it's going to also make it a little heavier. You know, you figure these are 4U rackets, but they're going to come out to the low 90s. Whereas, like, for example, X-Force 80s are whatever, 88, 89 pounds. Yeah, a lot of tiny little bubbles here. And yeah, these I don't actually care that much about because they kind of get squished to work on them. So we're going to do that. And I left the drive here because we are going to regrip that again from my friend. So the grip is not done the way that I want it to. And I don't even think the undergrip has been removed here, so we're gonna do that. I did get the chance to play with this a little bit, and there's some things that I do remember from. It's been a while since I've used the Acrospeeds, but there are some signs that I remember, like gigantic sweet spot, right, is one thing that I remembered from using the Focus, and this nice, stable, solid feeling. It's just the build quality of Mizuno rackets. It's very lovely. This one in particular, when I was playing within San Jose, I had a little trouble timing it, and I would take that with a grain of salt, just because I was kind of in vacation mode. So it's vacation mode and not really with my usual equipment and gym and stuff. And again, it's not my string setup, right? This is what my friend did. This is like Aerobite at. I mean, it's hard to tell what that. But it's bit of a soft string setup, so possibly not something that that I vibe with. And again, the Accel, yeah, so this is according to the shaft, this is slightly headlight. It doesn't actually feel that way. It's, again, the Mizuno rackets, they tend to feel pretty solid. So this one, it felt slightly head heavy actually. It was a pretty solid feeling racket. But, gotta go back in. Now, if you had a really good eye, you'll notice a few detailed differences between this and between the Acrospeed rackets. Now, they are supposed to be, I guess, sister rackets per se, but if you were looking closely, you will notice that, okay, well, first of all, the drive's color scheme is the base color is navy blue, and the accent color is blue, and so it doesn't stand out as well. But you'll notice that the metal color, so like this is here on the Focus and Accel, the emblem and the Made in Japan is silver, and on the drive, oh yeah, and the logo on the frame here is silver. But on the drive, it is bronze color. It's actually bronze on the Acrospeed Zero as well. And so that's interesting. And the other difference that kind of catches my eye, which I'll show you again, is that the... Wow, I'm not doing a very good job at this. It's been a while. The T-joint on this Accel is actually different. You'll see that on the drive, this one's hard because the contrast's not very good, but over there on the other two Acrospeeds, yeah. So the Focus and the drive, they have this T8 T-joint. The Acrospeed Zero has this T9 T-joint, and then this Accel has this T7 T-joint. Now, I don't actually know what that means. So I will look it up for you. But other than that, very similar, if not the same head shape, methinks. And very similar, I believe, shaft lengths, same between all of these. It's hard to tell since I've gripped them up so high, but again, we'll figure that out. You'll also be wondering if and when I'm going to be actually doing racket reviews. Yeah, so now I have all the equipment I need. I have 3 cameras at my disposal. And, you know, you might remember that I was planning on reviewing the NanoFlare 700 Pro, and the reason I didn't end up doing that is, yeah, you know, we're not going to talk about it, but one of my friends broke my NanoFlare 700 Pro. I do actually have another one, and which is good, but I haven't strung it yet. I haven't done anything. Okay, so this is interesting here. Is this actually G6 grip size? Because this actually feels bigger. No, I'm getting a little bit gaslit here. You know, maybe these handles are different. Yeah, the Accel, the handle is longer by a few millimeters, 4 or 5. And that means the shaft is shorter. Okay, so maybe that's why it felt kind of a little less peppy in the swing. Wow, okay. Very small detail. Surprised, and I almost missed that here. Ah, and here's something else interesting. The head shape is different here between the Accel and the Drive. The Accel has a longer head. Yeah, also 46. Now, before I gaslight myself further, let's double check this, right? Does it actually say 4U6 here? And it does. So this is a G6 grip. And so I was wondering, because you'll see here on my Acrospeed Zero that I went up above the cone, and then for this grip, I got to the top of the cone. And so that would only happen if I gripped it significantly differently. Yeah. Okay. So with that out of the way, let's tackle the Drive, I guess. And this is a perfectly good grip, so I'm gonna see if I can actually reuse this somehow. Might be a little ugly, but we're gonna try. I think what I really need here is, you know, a little bit of double-sided tape would be really nice. Yeah, so original grip still on here. That's perfect. But yeah, my first review was supposed to be that NanoFlare 700 Pro, but then my friend broke it before I could get around to making that review. But that's okay, because, you know, here I have these Mizuno. There are several reviews I do need to do. You know, I've been getting a lot of requests too, since I haven't gotten started yet, and I am playing regularly now, so I am in a position to do said reviews. And yeah, the biggest hurdle now is just time, right? I have so many things I want to do. I have so many rackets to grip, and you know, I have the podcast too, and my full-time job and whatever. So it's tough to find time, but I mean, that's kind of the core of my channel, so I will find time to do that. And so, you know, and the reason why I kind of want to start with this Acrospeed series is because, first of all, I have almost all of the rackets, and so it's going to be very easy to do kind of like a full series video. And the only one I'm missing is like that really obscure one. Okay, now we're... Okay, found that. Okay, oh yeah. Gotta be very careful, because very okay. I was too lazy to get my pliers, so I just use the good old principles of leverage, and yeah, looks fine. We will survive. And here we go with this double-sided tape. And again, Mizuno's, as I've said before, in terms of the build quality, extremely good, very consistent, and out of all brands, I would say modern Yonex rackets are pretty good about this too. Modern Yonex rackets that are JP or US coded, like corporate, where the manufacturing is directly owned by, overseen by corporate Yonex, and so it's like not Sunrise, not SP code. US, Canada, Japan code rackets are very consistent in quality, but Mizuno, really awesome, really good. Probably after those, maybe some of the best, most consistent wood in the handles of the racket. You know, if you have manufacturing, the variances that you get in like let's say balance and stuff, right? Like balance and overall weight. I have a strong theory. Now this is not proven, but it is something that maybe I could potentially prove in the future if I get the opportunity to do so. My theory is that most of those variances do come in the wood, because again, wood is an organic thing, and there will always be slight variances in terms of the cuts of wood that you get, especially if you're sourcing them from different areas, different parts of the tree, whatever, and it's very difficult to get nice, consistent wood for your handle, especially if you're on a budget. Part of why we don't like different regions sometimes have inconsistencies in their production, because they, of all of the materials, you know, carbon fiber meant for the frames and the shaft and stuff, that can be shipped from all over the world because carbon fiber is lightweight, so it's not difficult to ship those. But the wood for the handles is one thing which you wouldn't want to ship, because compared to carbon fiber, it is much heavier, and it is much easier to source locally. Like almost every country in the world has some sort of wood that they can supply for manufacturing, but the result of that is that you get that inconsistency, because the type of wood that's commonly available in Southeast Asia or China is not going to be the same type of wood that's available for manufacture in like the States or in Japan. In US and Japan tends to have much better hardwood available for their handles, hence why those kind of make some of the most consistent rackets. So not only do they have better tolerances and consistency for their overall manufacturing, but just the wood sourcing, I highly suspect, is just going to be a lot more consistent. And then when you have brands like Mizuno that only manufacture their top tier rackets in Japan, then it's all really going to come through the same factories, it's going to have the same suppliers, and that's where you really get that consistency, right? And that's why we care about manufacturing regions. Lovely, lovely stuff. So, yeah, weather's finally getting warmer. When I was in San Jose, we had some pretty warm days in the gym. If you're a West Coaster, if you have been to the Bay Area or whatever, you may know about this giant gym that recently opened up in Fremont, California. The club that owns it is Bingtang Badminton, which is a pretty popular chain in Northern California, and that gym has a whopping 50, that's 50 courts in it, which for a private club is extremely large. Yeah, so now I'm aware that I do have some international viewers, so I will explain that in the United States, we don't really get a lot of government subsidy for sport in the US. And what that means basically is that when you look for places to play, you can go to community centers, but the resources that are government funded are very sparse, meaning that most serious players go to private clubs here. And most private clubs, you might know from other countries, are also kind of difficult to build due to zoning laws, and the ceiling height requirements mean that a lot of badminton gyms are built in industrial warehouses. And again, due to zoning laws, that means that they tend to be far away from suburbs, meaning that they are kind of far away and kind of hard to get to for a lot of people. And that's kind of just a norm, right? That's just what you get used to. And in terms of club sizes, I think it's pretty typical to have, like, most gyms I see have between like 10 and 15 courts. That's the norm. Some larger gyms, like some of the ones in the Bay Area, the other Bingtang locations, kind of pioneered having slightly larger gyms at like in the 20s, like 24 to 26 courts, and back in the day that was considered quite large. Just for reference, here in the Seattle area, my local club is 10 courts, right? This is 10 courts. Wait, 10 and 11. It's either 10 or 11 courts, but I think it's 10 courts. And the other clubs that I sometimes end up at, tend to have 10 to 15 courts. This gym in Fremont, I believe, has 54 or 56 courts. Yes, you heard that correctly. 54. And that's a lot of courts. It's so many courts that even during peak hours, like think weekday evenings after work, right, when most people want to play. So at my local club, sometimes the wait time can get up to 30 minutes for a court at our 10 court gym. you might have to wait up to 30 minutes for a court and play for like 20 minutes. And the Fremont gym is so big with its 54 courts that even during peak hours, sometimes you just, you don't have to wait at all, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, and I mean, as for whether or not that can be a thing here in Seattle, again, it comes down to that balance of like how far away from the city do you want to make it, where the space is. It's hard to say. Anyways. So a couple interesting things I'm going to be keeping in mind when I, play with these rackets. I think the most interesting one that I'm going to keep my eye out for is how does the drive feel differently to the Acrospeed Zero? Because on paper they have the exact same balance and stiffness in theory. So what is the difference there? Now I also don't quite recall what pro players are using Mizuno at this moment. There weren't a lot to begin with, and there still are not a lot. So like, for example, there was like Pranoy, HS Pranoy. He used a JPX Reserve, which I don't have, but I would like to use at some point. And yeah, I don't really know anyone using these Acrospeeds, but I do think that there could be some players that use these that could end up liking them. Okay, so was able to use that, regrip that, and just take a quick look here at the Acrospeed Zero versus the Drive, One Drive. At least to my eye, the head looks the same. Hard to tell from the shaft and the handle, but I think those are the same too. I think if my feeling is correct, the Acrospeed Zero is longer by 1 or 2 millimeters overall, maybe 2 millimeters, a very minute amount. It could be because of the tension differences in the head, but I don't think so. It could just be that it seems like, is it the shaft or the handle? It is the shaft that is 2 millimeters longer, and the handles are the same. So very close, but you all know that from, for example, the Halbertech series, I'm a big fan of racket series that are very similar but have very slight differences. It makes it very easy to kind of dial in your preferences. Anyways, so we have these for rackets ready to test at some point. Now, from my trip, I also picked up some more interesting stuff. And so, you might be wondering, okay, why haven't you done your Brave Sword 10 yet? And there's a reason for that, which, if you want to find out, stay tuned. So until then, thank you very much for watching, and catch you in the next video.